Welcome to part 4 in the series of Drawing Expressively. Today we are elaborating a bit further and we are doing a landscape demonstration, and I'm showing you how I use these marks and pencil techniques to create the mountains, the trees, the foreground, etc., and use this to my maximum advantage to imply detail. My name is Richard, this is Art Focused, and let's get into it. So now we're going to see how these marks work. And I'm going to demonstrate this by drawing a landscape, a simple landscape, and we're going to see how many marks we can find in our landscape. So first of all, let's just divide this up. Okay, so now that I've got the basic construction of the landscape, now I can get into what it is that I wanted to show you here. If we look at, for example, things like the sky, we would go about using a mark that is using the flat edge to get a very broad kind of soft hatching type of effect for those clouds. See, there we see a kind of a hatch movement. Okay, then for example, if we look at these mountains in the background, once again using the flat end of the pencil, I would use that to create and fill in those mountains like that. I'd press a little bit darker and just over there, and that seems to be going into sunlight over there. Then we come to these mountain peaks here that are a little bit closer, not so far in the distance there. These are the closer mountains, and maybe I would start going darker. I'd press darker, so it definitely shows like that. Okay, and I've got that shadow shape there that I want to put in, and then there's another shadow shape there. Okay, and then I would go in with a darker pencil mark for those shadows. With a bit more of an edge to it. I'd lift my pencil, so I would go from that to lifting my pencil slightly. To get a mark like that. Then this part over here would come lighter. See, there I would go with a lighter pressure. For those mountains over there. Maybe just a little bit darker there in that edge there. Yeah, I can see some more shadow coming in there. All right, and then we come let me get the right grade of pencil. Let's go to this one. Now I would start looking at these these foothills here in the midground. It's actually still part of the background. I draw the shapes that I see there. Dividing it up into shapes. And we can see here I'm putting in even more pressure. And I can even go with a bit of a crosshatch over there. See, there I'm using a bit of a crosshatch. Going in there. If I want to darken that, I can just hatch over that shape. And we've got this shape over here. And then I can just take that and I can use that flat edge there again to get a broader hazy feel. So when it comes to these marks, we can see if we are drawing things that are in the distance especially, you're going to use the flat edge. Maybe slightly lift the edge. You're going to use a harder pencil like a 2H or a 3H for things in that distance. And then we come closer. So here we've got the field over here. And I can see there's some trees over there that I might want to put in. Okay, and here I'm kind of using like a circular kind of motion like that, for example. That's just another variation. Sometimes if you go about isolating these marks, you can turn them into exercises, and it can really improve what you're doing there and give you a more expressive feel to your drawings. Go very light there. Then we've got this section over here, which is kind of in shadow. If you want to fill that section there, we've got like fields and things happening there. Like that there. There I'm putting in some little trees and shrubbery in the distance there. It's still cool, still quite a far way off. There seems to be a farmhouse there. And here we can just show the actual lie of the land like that. Going in with nice long lines. That can also help us there. Yeah, I just want to bring in those trees a little bit more. Make them a little bit more prominent. See? And now we can look at the foliage of the trees here. Okay, first we can break it up into shapes of lightness and darkness. Okay, so here we go. That's the darkened edge there. See, then I'm going with these short dark lines like that. Maybe I want to go with something a little bit darker. Let's go 2B. 2B. Thank you. Putting in shapes there. Can you see all these little different marks we're using here? Okay, let me just go in there and get that shape. I want to go quite dark, different directions. And it's definitely giving us a nice value there. And I've got then this shape over here. Can use that in different directions like that. So here we're going in like different directions. You can see already where that is leading to. And all these little exercises we did helps us to understand what it is that helps create expressive lines and expressive marks, and therefore more interest in our actual drawings. And this is what this is all about. It's about creating interest. See there. There I've got like a, what would seem to be a telephone pole. I can go like that first. I can go in different directions here. Just augment that a bit. You can just see, use that kind of a vibe like that when we like want to augment those little bit of shadows there. So you really see all that come into play here. I just think it's important to show you the whole demo here and just break it down into these little steps. You can see where it's light, dark, where that light, dark dynamic comes into the picture. Just bring that a bit closer. And then we've got this section over here. Okay. This foreground section with all the crops. And I would generally just work like that. Get a base layer in first. That's going to be definitely something that is going to work for us here. And like that. We're in there. Just cross hatch it like that. Just to give a nice base and nice beginning. And then from here, I can use my pencils in a way to kind of communicate this more detailed section here in the front, using a kind of like a more stippled kind of a methodology, like this. See, it's kind of like just doing a kind of a, that kind of a feel, you know, very, very spontaneous when I'm working on this. And now I'm working over that crosshatch, you see, and that helps to create a lot more depth. Just put in a few darks there. Can work back to that.